All right, guys, welcome back to another episode. So we're going to be doing the Dead Frontier Q&A questions that we had for the developers. So first of all, thank all of you guys for all the help you guys put into these questions. We had some very good questions. I added some myself, but we all came up with like 30 to 40 questions. What we did was we compiled them, sent them to Dead Frontier Clayton developer. I'm not sure if he partnered with anybody else to answer them, but took a couple days, got back, and we have an answer for all the questions. So thank you guys for helping me out with that. And then again, thank you Clayton and the developers for giving us the opportunity to ask you questions. So what we're going to do is we're going to dive into this. We're going to go through the questions. I'm going to read the questions, read the answers. This is my first look at these, so I have not read through this yet either. They literally just got finished up. So I'm going to go ahead and start this. So I'm going to flashbang you guys. Bright screen, so just be cautious here. Ready? Boom. Okay. So ask the devs Q&A. So how this worked is I put the question and I put the username beside it of who asked the question, and then I put the answer, whatever answer they had, they filled it out themselves. So the answer was Clayton, for April Fools, could you make boxing gloves with a punching animation? And I thought this was a pretty cool idea. But someone mentioned this and I thought that would be pretty cool. And the answer was, sounds like a fun idea. We've made tools to help add more fist or dual melee weapons when making the Santa Claus. I can definitely see us expanding on that more in the future. I read a comment from someone on Discord saying we missed the opportunity to make a weapon called the Haymaker with the horse-themed Lunar New Year event. In hindsight, that would have been hilarious. That would have been really good. The Haymaker. So he's saying, yeah, there's some opportunities coming up, but that would have been a great Lunar New Year event. But anyways, so it sounds like it's not out of the question, but yes, that is a possibility now with the new dual setup they have going on. So the next one is, will U5 get released this year? And if you can, any idea when? So the answer is we're still not giving an exact date for release at this time. And I continue to temper expectations until you see official posts and announcements. We'll be starting another round of private testing soon to look at stability and balancing. We're not chasing perfection, so if things go well, you will start to see a ramp up with teasers and pre-release information posts that talk about what to expect. So he's saying they don't want to give you a date, they don't want to promise you guys anything, but they are working on it. They have another round of private testing they're going to be doing soon, and then, you know, it won't be perfect, but they're going to have ramp-up teasers and release information. So no data as of yet, but they are still working on it. And down here we have any type of dungeons and bosses being added with loot drops. So someone was asking if there's any other things being planned as far as playstyle. We have plans for dungeon-adjacent systems like raid building, similar to Dead Frontier 2, and in-game maps that will offer semi-procedural challenges with random modifiers. The next item drop is going to be new Dusk and Dawn weapons, as well as the bio weapon set, but those do not have direct ties to a specific dungeon. Okay, so what he's saying is the next item drop we're going to have is going to be the Dusk and Dawn weapons. Also bio weapons, but they do not have a direct tie to a specific dungeon. So they're looking at doing dungeons. They're not coming up next, but there is going to be some Dusk and Dawn weapons coming out very soon. All right. Anything being added to the game to keep people playing or progressing, prestige or anything like that? I'd personally like to avoid future level cap raises because it can tend to feel a bit artificial. As a new player, hearing level 415 as the cap is probably intimidating. We have had some brief conversations about prestige system, but decided the traditional approach of resetting your whole account and starting over could probably never offer benefits that would make the grind worth doing over and over. That said, we're still looking at the in-game activities or prestige-like systems that could help players stay engaged even after they reach the level cap. We know Dead Frontier switched away from these from the reset prestiges and settled on more of an infinite prestige level system that granted other rewards instead of stat points. Could be interesting to put a twist on that for Dead Frontier 1, but offer some cool cosmetic rewards and crafting items. Okay, so they don't want to go through and do prestige, but they are looking into other types of I guess, rewards for that. Sorry, I was getting a drink. All right, so if there will be new miniguns like the UWC or another $500 gun. So again, everybody's been asking this. In short, no. There are no plans for expensive mega weapon releases. So I had heard that before. That's something they didn't really like. Obviously, it made money for them, but it kind of broke the game, right? And I agree with that. It did. And it was very unfair. So it was a cool one-time thing, right? But they're not looking at doing that again. How long to complete the roadmap that was released on Dead Frontiers forums? Realistically, the roadmap for a dev team of this size will probably take around 2 years, give or take. I would love to see it done sooner than that, but not every entry on the roadmap is equal in terms of resource and time investment. Some get done fairly quickly, others take months. So what he's saying is, maybe around 2 years, but some things will go really quick. Some things will take a long time, and they don't have a huge dev team. So they're trying to get it done, but they're estimating 2 years, give or take. But that's where they're at. All right, what do you think the future for Dead Frontier looks like? I grew up playing Dead Frontier like a lot of the player base, so I could probably talk about the game's potential all day long. I'll keep it relevant to our current goals for the sake of time. We're doing a lot of work to catch up on long-standing issues. A true standalone client where most of the game is experienced seamlessly in client instead of the current half-browser, half-client Band-Aid. Multiplayer netcode that allows a group of friends to experience the game together without friction. A map and enemy catalog that keeps the game feeling fresh as you progress through the world. Monetization model that allows us to continue growing the game but lean away from the LE aspects, which is the limited edition. Once a lot of the core issues and designs have been looked at, I would like to see a Steam release for discoverability and eventually maybe even a mobile port that would be much later on. So a couple things here, guys. So they want the game to catch up to existing games, right? So that's huge. That means they're not going to be stuck the way they are now. So they're looking at expanding the gameplay and expanding how everything works, right? They're not just going to keep doing what they've been doing. They're not just going to release a weapon every season, Easter, holiday, whatever it may be. They're looking at really building onto this. So that's amazing. They're looking at the monetization models. They're looking at Steam. A lot of great stuff here, guys. They want to get rid of the half browser, half client Band-Aid. I agree with that. They're looking at the netcode. This answer right here is worth $1 million. Like this, that's phenomenal. Any idea on how to improve the communication with the fan base? A lot of players don't feel their voices get heard and was curious if there were any plans to address this or the community. More update announcements, progress reports, things of that nature. I definitely think we could be more consistent with talking about what is being worked on a more regular basis. Sometimes we catch up and chat with players in the Discord, but I know that platform isn't the best way for players to stay informed because conversations can get buried. Ideally, the game would have a release cadence that did a lot of the we're listening to feedback, talking for us through actions taken. We've started to take on much larger projects, which makes that more of a challenge to do. In the meantime, it could be worth trying to do a monthly summary of what's been going on that gets posts on the forums, even if it's short. A lot of people want to know what's happening, how or if their feedback is being used, or if things are moving at all in the background. The more recent stretch of silence is really just because we're focused on getting more of the non-flashy, behind-the-scenes work done on Unity 5. That's long overdue, and I am hoping it's a one-time situation. You should start seeing more posts regarding that update soon. So, long answer here. They understand and they know that they're not releasing information to us as much as we would like, and honestly, as much as they would like, right? So, he's saying, that's one thing they can do better on. And the reason it has been so quiet is because they are working on Unity 5 and they're trying to get their work done. And they have released some things on Discord. I've seen it. I've seen a couple of leaks on there. Other people have seen it. But like he mentioned, it does get buried. So they're aware. They just don't really have the resources right now to dedicate to that. What can we expect regarding the game's performance improvements with U5, specifically in terms of loading screens, game startup time, zone loading times, item pickup responsiveness, and whether the lag that occurs when picking up items will be resolved? A lot of time spent on optimization and performance improvements so far impact things like fixes for the choppy camera and player movement due to frame rate issues, prop density impacting frame rates on lower end machines, and reducing hitches. We're still looking at server-related optimizations that would impact things like loot search returns, things like game startup time, and loading screens have been improved a little, but we're still using the old architecture there for now. I'd like to take a better look at that area when we switch our attention to the map overhaul. So right there, he tells you he understands what you're talking about and the frame rates and all that good stuff, but that's not what they're really digging into right now. They want to look at that more when they switch their attention to the map. When they start doing the map overhaul, they'll start looking at all the load times and things like that. But at least they're aware of it and they have a plan. You know what I mean? So that tells me they're aware of it and they have a plan to look at that once they're doing the map overhaul. What does the Dead Frontier team think about clan machines and the inflation it may cause? Are there things in the works to modify them? It's on our radar, and Hot Rods 20 is taking a look at the feedback from the community has provided on clan machines in regards to cash and item generation while considering those that have already invested a lot of time and work building up the machines. Specifics on those changes are still being debated but should be shared soon. So they're looking at it. They're debating on what to change. They have Hot Rods 20 looking at it. So yes, there's no comment on what they're doing, but there is a comment saying they're doing something, right? So they're working on it. They just don't know exactly how they're going to fix it yet. Are there any plans to address the competitions, specifically the fact that a max level player that has more implant slots and stat points than a player not at level cap can essentially gatekeep people who are not at level cap from winning access to Dawn gear? One suggestion is Dawn access should automatically go to the next player in line that is not at level cap, while the win can still go to the person who placed first. Are there any changes that are being made to help new or less equipped players to have a chance in a weekly competitions? Okay, so a lot to break down here. So what Chris is asking, Chris is saying the weekly competitions, if you're level, let's just say 100, and you're fighting against a level 415 player, they're going to have more implant slots. They're going to have more stat points. They're going to have more better weapons. They really don't stand a chance. So you're kind of gate capped on winning, right? So let's say you get second place and this level 400 guy gets first place. Well, the level 400 guy can already get all this stuff. So Chris was recommending that if that person's max level cap or whatever that may be, you drop the reward down to the second placement because the first placement already has it, which makes sense. So we'll see what the answer is. So we've talked about competition structure a few times over the years, but there aren't any active conversations around it recently. It's a difficult problem to solve. As a developer, we want to keep the in-game players engaged, and clans competitions are currently a large part of that, while also rewarding the dedication and investment those players have made their characters and gear progression. At the same time, that structure is gatekeeping new players from having a solid chance at winning. Moving the Dawn reward to the next player in line isn't the craziest solution, so long as the first place winner gets a reward that makes competing worthwhile as well. It's something that would need more thoughts and discussion around it. There is probably a guy on the forums that shared a fair solution 10 years ago, but a refresher on the topic could be helpful. At one point, we were heavily considering making it a daily competition where you get to pick one dusk item if won, rather than a week-long commitment to win shop access. We've also considered things like an arena, forcing everyone to have the same equipment loadouts over the weekend. So, I agree with both people, and I think he does too, and it is a very difficult situation. So, the problem is, the people that have all this gear, and they took the time to level, should have an advantage, right? If I spend 2,000 hours in the game playing, and you spend 100 hours in the game playing, I should be able to out-level you, or whatever that is. So, I understand that part. But the bad part is, it really does eliminate any new or medium tier players because the heavy players are going to just destroy them. So it's hard to find a balance, and he says there are some suggestions, but it sounds like right now this isn't the top priority. So it's a known issue, but right now it doesn't sound like there is an answer. other than they know that there is something, that it needs to be modified some way. Will Raven Ridge eventually have its own daily missions as well as fast travel? Will there ever be an outpost set up closer to the Southeast Zone? Yep, Raven Ridge will have daily missions. It was meant to happen a while ago, admittedly, but focus has shifted around a few times. It's on the roadmap. Not sure if it will have fast travel. The area is supposed to be more isolated from the rest of the city. If gameplay flow would greatly improve, and maybe it was more expensive, I think it would be worth thinking about. We will see a type of outpost near Death Row in a future release. Okay, so there will be an outpost near Death Row in a future, okay? And then secondly, Raven Ridge, they do not want that to be there. So they're saying it was made to not have fast travel, as it was supposed to be kind of isolated from the rest of the city, but they're not going to roll it out. If the gameplay flow would greatly improve, and maybe there were some other things, like it was really expensive, maybe they'd think about making it there. But right now, Raven Ridge is going to stay as it is, and Death Row eventually will have something coming up in the future release. So some good answers there. Where is our dual titanium blades animation? This is probably one of the most important questions. I was going to squeeze it in with the Christmas release, but ran out of time. Should see those fan favorites updated soon. So he's aware. He was going to try squeezing in for Christmas, but didn't have time. If the new zones are extending from Raven Ridge and Death Row, will the loot pools be new or different? You will start to see unique loot pools and item drops from biomes and zones more over time. So he's saying you'll see different, which means unique, right? You're going to find unique loot pools and item drops from biomes and zones over time. So as time goes on, things are going to change, and you're going to see those loot pools change around too. So great question, great answer. If the community wants to help Dead Frontier grow, what kinds of suggestions are most useful to you as a developer? Generally, suggestions like buff X item, remove X feature, fix bug are not super helpful for us outside of highlighting its needs changed in some way. Suggestions with more of an explanation about the problem help us narrow down possible solutions and take out some of the mixed guesswork, or some of the guesswork. Turning a suggestion like the game feels stale into something more like after level 150, the only meaningful progression is implant min-maxing, which doesn't feel as exciting, is much more insightful. Think about game health over a couple years. Avoid asking for instant gratification or changes just because. Consider and care about game balance. Bring structure, information, and arguments. That said, we appreciate all suggestions. Please keep sharing your thoughts and ideas. So, great answer there. And we've all done this, right? We've all said, oh, this needs nerfed. This needs buffed. And they're saying that's good information. But realistically, more in-depth information helps them. So if you say, I feel like the orange zone on the map was kind of stale. There wasn't much going on. I couldn't find items. It was very boring. There wasn't much to do. The enemies were the same. If you give detailed information about an issue, you're more likely to give them better feedback so they can find a solution. Do you have any plans or strategies for increasing the player base? And does that include marketing, advertising, or mostly in-game systems and community growth? Answer. Before any serious market push, we have to consider if 1,000 new players join tomorrow, how many of them would stay? At this time, I think we would lose most of them. I'll keep it a bit short, but my current strategy for the game's growth is stabilize the core game, systems, design, and tech, improve the onboarding with more tutorials and information provided within the game itself, improve on the early to mid-game progression curve, then do marketing push. Just pushing ads doesn't work like it used to in 2009. They are very competitive and expensive. They are very competitive and expensive. The game has to be in one of its best states ever, or quickly trending in that direction with how competitive the gaming industry is now. And I didn't even think about this, but he's 100% correct. So, you could push it on Steam tomorrow, and you might get 4,000 players. But if the game isn't set up the way it needs to be, that's going to crash. You're going to go down to 2,000 players, and then you're going to have all these negative reviews. You're going to go down to 1,000 players, and then the game's done for. So I think he is right with that. I think it needs to be set up for success, right? And then released. All right. Are there major technical design limitations that prevent Dead Frontier from being playable on mobile devices? There are 2 limitations right now. The biggest being that it is dependent on a web browser for half the menus and systems in the outpost. The second limitation being an outdated game engine that does not have support for modern mobile devices. If we can address both of those, then a mobile port could be considered. Are you aware of a cryostorm particle issue that causes lag after about an hour grinding? I believe this was fixed recently and should not longer cause performance issues. If not, let us know on the forums or Discord and we can take another look. So he's saying right now he doesn't believe so. He knows it was a thing previously, but he believes it's fixed. I myself used both those items and I have not noticed it either. So again, if you are having this issue, we might need some more information on that. The multiplayer desync has always plagued Dead Frontier. Is there any way to fix this issue? I do think it's possible to fix these days. We already have a few ideas in mind on how we can improve and rework it to be more consistent experience. After we have a stable foundation to work on, multiplayer fixes are high priority for us. Okay, so he's saying multiplayer fixes are a high priority. They do think it's possible to fix it. They have some ideas they're floating around. They haven't fixed it yet, obviously, but they have some ideas and they do plan on taking a look at it. So it's on their list. What is the next update among the roadmap that will be coming to release? Outside of events, Unity 5 engine update is our focus, so I would bet on that being the next roadmap update to be released, unless something like weapon dies or mods somehow get squeezed in. So right now, the biggest thing is Unity 5. So that's the thing that's on there. That's taking all their time. Unity 5 is where it's at right now. Other than some Easter events or things like that, pretty much Unity 5 is going to be where they're at. Can you list a few quality of life improvements that will be coming out? You will be able to walk through bushes instead of getting stuck on them all the time. So yeah, that is a quality of life improvement. So what he's saying is if you play Dead Frontier, those damn bushes, right? You're going to be able to go through them. So think about this. Think about going through the bushes. Now think about the Devil Hound going through the bushes. Was there a specific reason for the release of 2 shotguns back to back? No planned reason. When I was told about the Year of the Horse theme for the event, I recalled that I had already done the sprites for the coach guns a few months ago, which loosely filled in for the theme. So he's saying no, not really. He already had the sprites done for the coach guns a few months ago. So he just threw them in there. So no real reason. How long until the Dusk Gear drops? Will the Dusk Gear drop all at once or come out little by little? The new Dusk and Dawn items will drop alongside the bioweapons with the Unity 5 update all at once. So that's huge. So Unity 5 and Dusk and Dawn, they're going to be coming out together, guys. Is adding voice chat in the game optional? This would be epic. That was me saying that. No plans for local voice chat at this time. So still no plans on voice chat, guys. That was a good question though, Creeper. Is there going to be a marketplace overhaul? The user experience could definitely be updated. The layout and design is quite dated now. I recently read about a new player that was confused about how to heal and repair armor. What sort of changes would you want to see? Okay, so right now, so he's asking us for feedback, guys. He's saying, yeah, it could be changed, but they don't really have an idea of what to change that to. So they're saying right now they don't have that getting overhauled. What kind of changes would you want to see? So they're asking us for feedback. What kind of marketplace changes do we need to see? That's a great question and a great answer. And that opens it up as it's on us, guys. What do we need to do to the marketplace? What's wrong with it? So I think we need to help out with that, and I will pass that on. Will Orange Zone be rebalanced to support a more gradual increase of difficulty? Not sure if this is a question relating to making the area easier or more difficult. I know we recently added the red long arms and red rumblers to spawn pool to make it a little more difficult compared to P13. So again, he's saying he's not really sure what the question was. And again, the question was, will Orange Zone be rebalanced to support a more gradual increase in difficulty? So maybe it's too hard, and I don't know either. I can't tell if this question is regards to it being too easy or too hard. So again, kind of vague, but I really don't have a good grasp on the question either. Will there be a wipe of any form with the engine upgrade? There will not be a wipe of any kind. Okay, so that's good. Guys, we have so much to go through. So here's what we'll do. Because I'm already 25 minutes on, we're going to stop here. This will be part 1. And then we will start part 2 right after this, okay? So part 1, and then we will resume. I did not expect this to take so long, guys. So anyway, if you guys are liking this, please like, subscribe, hit that thumbs up button, leave a comment below, join our Discord. Doesn't cost you a dime, absolutely free. And until next time, you guys stay safe out there. Peace.